Hi, I'm Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Aries for July 2018. Go to my website, anniehelpsyou.com. Check out my new moon and full moon blogs intended to help you maximize those transits, as well as my extensive other blog series on that site. If you'd like to learn astrology, either for personal or professional purposes, then definitely check out my Astrology Apprenticeship program, which may still have some slots available. So what is going on in the month of July? We have 2 eclipses this month. We've got another one in August. We have Jupiter going direct. We have Mars retrograde still, which, as you know, Mars is your ruler. Maybe you don't know, but if you've listened to my reports, then you definitely know. We'll talk more about that. We've got Mercury retrograde. We've got lots of energy in Fire, which is a sign, which is an energy that is the same as yours. We've got Chiron moving into Aries, so let's talk about all this stuff. All right, I'm going to start out with Jupiter. Jupiter is the planet that rules optimism, growth, expansion, good luck, and benevolence. When Jupiter is retrograde, sometimes we could be feeling a little bit less protected or supported. Places where Jupiter was giving us great expansion could have gone a little bit on the back burner, kind of sleepy-like. But now that Jupiter is awakening at the beginning of July, the work that Jupiter was doing for Aries in their coupledoms is going to start sizzling again. That's why I'm calling the theme of this month Sizzling Relationships. And there are a couple of different reasons why I'm focusing on this relationship sector, because I say we because I have Aries rising myself. We have our 5th house. This time of year, our 5th house gets lit up like the 4th of July. I always like to describe it because around the 4th of July and the time after that, as the planets start to move into Leo, basically, that makes a very favorable series of aspects with our Aries placements. And so we start to sizzle. So even though we're in the midst of this Mars retrograde cooling down, we've got this energy that can bring creativity, motivation, fruition, excitement, and things gaining momentum. So it's kind of this weird, seemingly contradictory energy, but there's so much that's lighting up for you at this time. And you will notice that this happens every year when the planets start to get into Leo. You get a little bit of this oomph. Now, at the same time, Mars, your ruler, is retrograde. And unless you have Mars retrograde in your natal chart, which most people don't, some people will, most Aries, this is a time for rest. So the perfect combination of Mars bringing rest and this sizzle happening is to just work on the things that you're excited about. If something comes to you and you're stoked about it, whether it comes to you through inspiration or whether it comes to you because someone calls and offers you something, then you can say yes to the things that are flowing. The only things you want to say no to in Mars retrograde are the things that aren't flowing, and certain things like launches or things that require a whole bunch of momentum, because you want to have Mars on your side with that. But it's an amazing time to rest, and I call this Mars retrograde energy, an energy of retrogrades in general, is like a shavasana period after yoga. That few minutes of integration, that quiet time is when things click, insights occur, healing happens. So in the midst of this very quiet, resting space where you can be enjoying yourself and having lots of fun and recreation, lots of creative sizzle might come into that quiet space, and you can feel free to follow that and have fun with it. Jupiter waking up in the 7th or 8th house, depending on your placement. Early degree placements have Jupiter in the 8th. Most of you middle and later degree placements still have it in the 7th house. But what's the same for every Aries is that 7th and 8th houses are focused on relationships. So anything involving you partnering with somebody else, you having a practitioner to help you, a healthcare team if you're trying to improve your health, if you're trying to improve your business, getting your team of assistants together. Your wildest wishes for relationship have the chance to be granted in this period of time in a very big way. And this is a longer term transit. This is going to continue at least to the end of the year for many of you, and even further than that for you later degree placements. So any type of helper that you would want, if you have an idea that you want to get instigated, you need a certain person with a certain area of expertise in a certain affordability range, you can really, really craft your perfect people to help you with the things you're trying to accomplish. If you want partners, you can find those. If you want people that, report to you like you're their employer, you can find that. If you want to find independent contractors, anything in your life that requires the help of somebody else, the expertise of somebody else, is so magical right now. And this also includes romance. So if you're looking for a romantic partner, Jupiter waking up is going to facilitate that. But we do have to remember that with Mars retrograde, new relationships are not as favored to make big decisions about. Okay, so if you're meeting somebody now in the June, July, August, September-ish time frame, you don't want to make any big decisions whatever a big decision would be in relationship to you, moving forward in a big way, connecting in a deeper way, moving in together, getting engaged, all of that, unless Spirit is very clear and you're following your intuition, because there are always going to be caveats to this. But for the most part, after Mars goes direct, some of the things that you're excited about now you're not going to be. That's why it's generally indicated to just take things slowly and enjoy them and have fun, but it can have a short-term window that would be fine if you're not trying to put more on it than it needs to be. Okay, so lots of stuff in the relationship sector. We have Chiron, the wounded healer, the gentle centaur that trained all of the heroes we hear about in Greek mythology. Chiron is the trainer of heroes. So Chiron is moving into our sign. So at some point in the next 5.5 years, Chiron's going to cross along every Aries point. So all of us are going to have Chiron move over our Aries planets in this time. If you are in the early part of the sign, the first 5 or so degrees or 5 or so days, then you have Chiron on your Aries planet right now. This can bring up a woundedness. This can bring up vulnerability. And what Chiron wants to do is either strengthen that weakness or help you to focus on your other strengths to better protect your weakness. So you may find this topic of victim and tyrant coming up. The victim-tyrant polarity is very common with Chiron. It's that place where you feel most wounded, like you have to do more work than other people in this area, like other people don't have to deal with the things you have to deal with in this area. It could get you to feel sorry for yourself. So there's a lot of healing that can be done over this period of time in those areas where it makes you feel really sensitive. And so your inner hero can be trained in a bigger way by this transit. We also have the eclipses. So, as I mentioned before, the July 12th eclipse, I'm going to talk about that, how it will affect Aries in the June report. So if you want to see about that eclipse, listen to the June report for me. This July 27th, total lunar eclipse at almost 5 degrees of Aquarius. We're going to talk about the implications for that one for Aries now. And then the third eclipse, the one in August, I'll talk about that in the August report. Okay, so the first thing to know is that the sign of Aquarius makes a 60-degree angle with the sign of Aries. So that means that things that happen in Aquarius are making a favorable angle to your Aries placements. So not only is the Mars retrograde affecting you because Mars is your ruler, but it's also retrograde most of the time in Aquarius. It dips back into Capricorn a little bit, but mostly this Mars retrograde transit is in Aquarius, which means that many of you are going to have Mars make a positive aspect with your Aries placement, okay? So that's going to even favor you more. That means that many things that you've worked on in the past have a huge chance of coming to fruition now. Things you've dreamed about, things you've hoped about, things you've planned for. Mars retrograde can bring these into a magical manifestation, but also this eclipse can bring things into magical manifestation, especially if you have Aries planets between 0 and 10 degrees. This eclipse is going to hit those in a favorable way and can bring some major manifestation for you. In general, for you early degree placements, most of you middle degree placements, not the late degree placements. So for the first half of the sign or so, the first 15 or so days in the sign, you will have this eclipse hit in the 11th house. The rest of you will have the eclipse hit in the 10th house. Okay, so for the 11th house, this has to do with an ending, a culmination, something coming to fruition as it relates to groups. So teaching a group, leading a group, being part of a group, teams, large organizations, humanitarian efforts. It has to do with internet-based projects or something involving your leadership, involving like a group or a community, the building of or expanding of a community or a community-based project. This also can do with have to do with social media, friendships, acquaintances, and friends. So something notable happening with a friend, holding space for them, or them going through something, or you doing something with them. This can have something to do with anything with innovation or technology. So there's a lot of energy around all of those potentials. And so something notable, either coming to fruition, ending, beginning, something powerful happening in those arenas. For the rest of you, you may see, and this is the second half of the sign, so like from 15 degrees on, or the last half of the birth dates, you will notice something ending or coming to fruition or happening, coming to a completion or a pinnacle in your work sector. In general, as you've been hearing, Aries energy for work is supercharged at this period of time and for an extended period of time because Pluto has been moving through your 10th house forever. Saturn is more recently in the 10th house for many of you, and for the rest of you, even if it's not the 10th house yet, it's in the sign that rules the 10th house. So change is happening with work, fruition, recognition happening with work. Sometimes problems that lead to you taking a totally different direction with your work or profession, or leaving your job or field altogether. So that's all happening, but now this eclipse is taking it another step further, where something that you've worked on might finally be happening. Something you've thought of, that you've seen, a vision you've had forever, could actually find itself manifesting right here in the middle of this Mars retrograde energy and this impending Mercury retrograde, because Mercury goes retrograde around the 25th of July. And so there's like all this energy from the past, but there's all this energy of manifestation. So it really increases the odds that something that you had planned to do may show up in a big way. Like, now is the time. Sometimes timelines can be abbreviated, like something was out in the future, I'll do this, and now it's like, oh, I guess I'm doing this now. So in general, you can plan some things if you're intuitively inclined, but for the most part, it's a time to watch and see what shows up and follow the leads that are coming to you, and if you find that you're trying to do something and you're getting frustrated, then stop, because that means that you're not supposed to be doing that, especially now. There are some times, and Aries are, the masters at this, that you just have to push through something and make it happen. But when Mars is in retrograde, you're not supposed to be pushing. You're supposed to be productively or comfortably productive, doing things that are flowing well, that aren't a bunch of effort, and that are easier and fun and magical. So these are the things that are most on my mind for Aries placements. If you'd like a written horoscope from me for you, then go to cozybysweetstarlight.com. Cozybysweetstarlight.com is my lifestyle website where me and my up-and-coming bloggers that I would like to help the world see, awesome people, are sharing all kinds of things. And then I have my horoscopes on there for you that are always a month early. If you're a traveler, or you just like the idea of traveling, you can check out my astrology-based travel site called astrologykisstravelbliss.com. And if you are seeing this before July or in the beginning of July, you may want to join me in my live retreat in Siesta Key, Florida, which is going to be a magical, wonderful, fun time. So you can check out Soul Connections Retreat on my website, anniehelpsyou.com, if you'd like to join me live in magical Siesta Key in Sarasota. All right, so now let's go into the general transits. I want to give you some good dates to watch, some challenging dates to watch. Also, I want to talk more about some things to know for the month of July. So the theme of the month for all signs for July 2018 is 2 eclipses equals major transformation. We've been talking about these eclipses. We've got 3 in this cycle. 2 of the eclipses in this cycle are in July. The 3rd one is in August. Whenever it's eclipse time, drastic changes, expected and unexpected new paths open up. Very often there's a complete surprise trajectory change that takes us in a completely different direction. And in some cases it brings to fruition things intended or planned, and sometimes it can shorten the time frame for something that we had originally thought would be further out, where we wake up one day and we had planned something for the future and all of a sudden it's here now. So this eclipse time is a very powerful time, and there are other things going on besides these eclipses. So we're going to talk about these astrological transits to note for July. Mars is still in retrograde. So Mars just turned officially into retrograde at the end of June. I have been talking about this for a long time because it's a very long transit, and there is a period of time before and after a retrograde transit of a personal planet like Mars that is very long, and you start to feel the energies well before the retrograde actually occurs. Okay, so we've been talking about this Mars retrograde energy. We started feeling it in May, it officially turned in June, and now in July, we are fully into Mars retrograde. So this Mars retrograde is bringing permission to rest and to focus on relaxation and recreation, and what I like to call comfortable productivity. It's not that you can't get anything done in Mars retrograde. You absolutely can. You just have to follow the cues. It's not a time to be over ambitious, unless, of course, if you have Mars retrograde at birth, sometimes you can get more done during this transit than you do normally. But you would know it, because if you're trying to do something and it's working out and it's flowing really easily and you're not having roadblocks and you're not having frustrations, then that's totally fine. When you need to take the cue to rest and back off is when you're pushing and it's not working out the way that you wanted it to. So instead of just continuing to push, taking a step back is what is well indicated when Mars is in retrograde. So to second this notion, we have other astrological forces that are saying the same thing. Mercury is going to go into retrograde, and that's going to be on July 25th. And once that happens, it's going to further bring the past back into the present. So the shadow period for Mercury retrograde starts early in July. So essentially the whole month is very much in this energy of things coming up from the past. So opportunities from the past, ideas from the past, projects from the past are all very much indicated to focus on at this time. At the same time as all of this energy is going on, we have the eclipses happening, and the eclipses may bring change and opportunities to act on, whether you want them or are ready for them or not, or maybe you are. But since there's so much energy pointing towards the past, a lot of times it will be things from the past finally coming to fruition now. So it's totally fine to say yes to the things that come to you. You just want to have an awareness of maybe not having all of the information, maybe the project being different or turning out different than you think. And the big key here is to be the spider. Okay, the eclipses and the retrogrades both tell us the same story, which is be the spider. So spiders weave their web and they wait for the food to come to them. So that's the kind of time that this July energy is really bringing. It's bringing this just chilling out and waiting and seeing what comes to you, and then you can work with what comes to you as it comes. Okay, so we've also got 5 trines this month. Trines are the most wonderful harmonious aspect in astrology. So I'm going to give you some dates to watch here. Now, the dates that I'm going to list, I'm going to go into some detail about the transits, but if you'd like more detail about the transits I'm talking about or transits that I'm not talking about that are also occurring, then definitely go to anniehelpsyou.com, sign up for my free email newsletter, and you'll receive monthly written reports a month before the relevant time. If you've already signed up for my newsletter and you're not receiving my reports, they're either going into spam, promotions, social, or events folders in your email. So look for them in there and then transfer them into your inbox so that you get my mailings. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the dates to note. The first one, actually, I'm going to just list these sweet spot dates. They're trines, they're beautiful aspects where things can gel together in a wonderful way, where there's just little sweet spots. So in the days around July 5th, July 8th, July 11th, July 13th and 14th, July 25th, we're having this beautiful aspect of trines on all of those days. So look out for little boosts at that time. The next date to note is July 12th, and that is this partial solar eclipse at 20 degrees of Cancer. So for everyone, every sign, this can bring new things involving home, family, houses, real estate, anything involving home. If you're an architect, it could involve your work. You know, anything that involves homes or housing or family or childhood or psychology, childhood psychology especially. All of these things are very high on the list of potential manifestations from this solar eclipse energy. So in the days around July 12th, you'll especially feel this eclipse energy, but remember that you could have gotten news about this manifestation that may come in as soon as May, because we've got like 6 to even sometimes 8 weeks ahead of time is when pieces of the story start coming in for these eclipses, okay? But that is a date to note. I always try to avoid doing anything important on the eclipse dates. You just kind of want to try to be available for whatever shows up. On July 27th, the second eclipse is a total lunar eclipse, and this one is at 4 degrees, almost 5 degrees of Aquarius. So here we'll see a lot of activity along the lines of friends, friendships, acquaintances, social media, groups, humanitarian efforts, internet-based projects, large organizations, anything having to do with innovation or technology. So look for those things. And again, this stuff could come in months before or months after. We're moving along a continuum with these eclipses, but that's on July 27th is when the actual event occurs. Okay, so some dates to look out for that could bring some challenges. And you'll notice that some of the dates I listed for the trines that have some sweet spots, there are also some challenging aspects on those dates. So you may feel them on the same day, something positive happening, something challenging happening, or you may feel one day it's a little pocket of a sweet spot and the next day is a little bit of a challenge. It's always hard to be black and white about how these energies are going to manifest, but I just want to list them so that you can be aware. On the 5th of July, on the 9th, on the 24th, on the 25th, and on the 26th and 27th, we've got challenging aspects on those dates. We have some squares, we have some oppositions, and these bring pressure to change, basically, or put pressure on viewpoints or ways things have been done. You know, they're basically, I describe them as the pressure. Well, the squares are the pressure that creates the diamond. So sometimes if we have a diamond that we want to create in our lives or a vision for this diamond, we have to do something about it. And if we're not doing something about it, or we're not sure what to do, this pressure comes in the form of this square, and it either shows us what we have to do or makes us fed up so that we actually take action. So you might see that energy show up this month from those squares. The oppositions bring overstimulation. Overstimulation is when there's a lot of busyness in opposing forces in our lives. So we've got an opposition in Leo and Aquarius on the 5th, so that could have to do with your own creativity versus the group, like your own flow versus the group flow. And then we've got another opposition on the 24th with Venus and Virgo opposing Neptune and Pisces. So this can be a lot of push and pull about the seen world and the unseen world, the logical world and the abstract world, and the intuitive world. You know, so you'll see some overstimulation with trying to balance being in multiple dimensions at once. Okay, so the things to note for this month: lots of sweet spots, some challenging points, and definitely massive opportunities for change. massive opportunities for things coming to fruition. The keynote here is to try to not plan too much unless you're very intuitively directed or unless it comes to you to be planned for that time and that's out of your hands. And if something comes to you, then it's definitely fine to say yes to it. Just be aware that there may be changes that are continuing to happen over the rest of the retrogrades, and just to navigate as consciously as possible, leaving as much flexibility in your arrangements as possible. Mars retrograde is continuing this energy of relaxing, taking vacations, taking trips, doing nothing. And in that space of doing nothing, this is one of the most magical things that I love about retrograde. So people say, well, you can't do anything in retrogrades, and it's totally not true. It's just not a time to push. It's not a time to go against the tides. But what you can do, I always call it the shavasana of transits, because in that few minutes of shavasana at the end of a yoga practice, that integration, that quiet time is when the insights come, when the clarity comes, when the important pieces come, when the breakthroughs come. So this Mars retrograde, this month of July, is like this shavasana point where from that quiet space, pure genius can pop in and change everything. So these are the things that are most on my mind for the month of July. If you would love to learn astrology with me, check out my astrology apprenticeship program. I also have lots of other cool educational offerings on my site, both to change your vocation or just for your self-development and growth. I have my Astaria School of Practical Magic, which is a really fun way to work with the unseen realms and bring them into the seen realms. Definitely check out my hubby's offerings, B.R. Newman, at IAMHELIOS.com, IamHelios.com. He's got lots of sound frequencies that help to balance out challenging transits and also help to empower you during the transits that we have going on. So definitely check his site out. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month. Bye.